Hello, everyone, and welcome to our special council meeting for Wednesday, June the 23rd. So the purpose of this meeting will be to hear from the InnPower, InnServices, and InnTerprises as shareholders' annual general meeting. So we'll start just by letting you know that we are both recording and this meeting. And when you're not speaking, if you could please mute your microphone, that would be wonderful. And comments made during this meeting are both audio and video recorded and shall form part of the record, which will be retained in accordance with the town's retention bylaw. So with that, I'd like to welcome everybody and all of our special guests that we have on here as well, and ask that if I could have a mover and a seconder to approve the agenda as printed. That would be Councillor Ices and Deputy Mayor Davidson. All those in favor? That is carried. Next, if there's any disclosures of interest. Seeing none, I will point out that I will be handing the chair over to the Deputy Mayor. However, I'm not declaring a declaration. I'm just simply doing that so I can, because I also sit on the board, I want to be here as a director and be able to answer questions as necessary. So now I need a mover and a seconder, please, to make the Deputy Mayor have him as appointed chair for this section. Councillor Van Berkel and Councillor Waters, all those in favor? And that is carried, and it's over to you, Deputy.
Thank you, Your Worship. Okay, first we need a mover and a seconder for the minutes of the InnPower Corporation Annual General Meeting dated October 28, 2020 be received. Kenneth, and Councillor Nickel. Thank you. Kenneth.
All in favor?
All in favor? Thanks, Lynn. Okay, a mover and a seconder, please. That the presentation from Danny Prasad, President and CEO of InnPower Corporation, be received of information, and that the audited financial statements for InnPower Corporation for the period ending December 31st, 2020. I'll just wait for that to come back up. Okay, Councillor Nichols on that, and
Sorry, Deputy Mayor. I believe the presentation comes and then we do the recommendation afterwards.
oh, sorry, I didn't. Okay, I was on a step there. Sorry, thank you. Rookie.
Okay, good afternoon, Your Worship, Deputy Mayor, members of council, staff, and community members. My name is Danny Prasad, President and CEO of InnPower and InnServices Utilities. So very happy to be here and very pleased to be presenting to you today the successes of InnPower and InnServices over the last year. Next slide, please. So before I get started here, I want to make mention that the Electricity Distributor Association has awarded our very own Dr. George Chaparro with the Chair's Citation Award. This award is to board members and utility executives who have dedicated their life's work to bettering our industry. So thank you to George for his continued dedication to our industry. It's very fitting for him as he lives and breathes his words every day for the power industry. So please join me in congratulating George as the well-deserved recipient of the EDA Chair Citation Award. Next slide, please. Our board of directors are listed here. Also a great thank you to our board for their continued support and direction to making our organizations better. Next slide, please. And also to the executive team. I put some pictures in here in case not everyone knows who our executive team are. I want to express my sincerest thank you to them as well for their continued hard work and dedication to continuously improving our organization as well. Next slide, please. So I wanted to talk a little bit about the benefits of being an InnPower customer. So living in Innisfil has its advantages. So when it comes to power distribution, though, some of those advantages are also disadvantages for us. So InnPower owns and operates over 10,000 hydro poles, over 1,000 kilometers of line, and it covers over 292 square kilometers, which is about the same size as Mississauga. Much of this is rural overhead lines. This system is costlier to operate than underground subdivisions because these lines are subject to foreign interference such as trees, animals, vehicles, and weather. A lot of those things that are a benefit of living in Innisfil. These things create over 90% of the outages that we experience. With continuous improvement around tree trimming and preventative maintenance, our outage numbers have come down dramatically. And as the town continues to grow, costs are expected to stabilize as well. Throughout this presentation, you'll see some of the great things that InnPower has accomplished and all of the value that we've created for our community. Next slide, please. So a little bit of the breakdown of our bill. We showed this last year, but I think it's very important that we reiterate that on the entire bill, InnPower only keeps about 30% of it. The rest of the bill does go to the province for generation, transmission, regulatory, and taxes. So out of a $125.90 bill, InnPower only keeps about 37 bucks. Next slide, please. So getting into some of the great things we've accomplished with our staff, we have a new bill design. Many of you may have seen this. This new bill design is much better in terms of its visual appeal, as well as it's clean, sleek, and easy to read. The greatest benefit to us here is that it's reduced our operating costs. So the new bill design will reduce operating costs. It improves the customer experience while lowering the cost, which is very good for us. You can see that we've incorporated colored graphs, and we've grouped it into buckets so that customers are able to see exactly what they're paying for hydro, for water, and for thermal. Next slide, please. We've also come up with a brand new refreshed website. You can see that this website is very modern. It's got new features. It's got a resolve a complaint page, which is something that we've heard from our community. And it's also got a tree issue reporting form. As I mentioned before, trees are a huge problem in our area with respect to power outages. And so we've made that top of mind on our website. So customers can click on it, snap a picture, and email it to us, and we'll get crews out there to take a look. Next slide, please. A little bit on our financial results. You can see that there's increases in all categories. So the most important thing here is basically, even in the pandemic, essential construction didn't stop. It's important to note that. The growth and new connections did not stop. However, our staff were able to keep up with this growth and keep our expenses in line with previous years in order to keep our bottom line stable. Our full audited financial statements are available upon request from the clerk's office. Next slide, please. With respect to our engineering and operations, these numbers continue to surpass numbers from last year, as you can see. We have more than doubled our service upgrades and our capital investment. Our team continues to work hard in the midst of the pandemic to keep the lights on, and they're certainly our frontline heroes. Next slide, please. A little bit on our major ongoing projects. We've got the Hewitt and Salem area expansions and development. We've got Metrolinx crossings, which will bury all of the lines to electrify the railway tracks up into Innisfil. We've got a significant amount of load coming, and as such, we need a new transformer station. We've been working on that. We've got a new geographical information system utility network model, that's a mouthful, that we're working on right now. This is going to be we're going to be one of the first electrical utilities in Ontario to adopt a fully integrated and electrically aware model. So this model will allow us to do predictive analysis, which will help us to quickly identify and predict outage areas. And we're also working on a distribution system plan in line with InnServices master planning process. Next slide, please. A little bit on our station improvements. InnPower has yet another new and improved substation. This time it's at Fennel's Corners at Highway 89 and Yonge. This station upgrade, as you can see, it looks a lot nicer than it did before. It will provide another 100 years of power to our community, at least. Next slide, please. A little bit of some of the challenges we faced. So earlier in the spring, a lot of you might remember we had a few days there where we had some major power outages. So as I mentioned before, the top two causes of outages that we have are trees and animals. Adding the weather in there just makes it worse. So the first two photos show uprooted trees from the wind and the rain, while the third photo shows a bird's nest at the top. So these outages above were particularly bad as they affected the topmost circuits on the pole, which are our supply circuits into Innisfil, and they serve way more customers. So for trees, again, we recognize this is a problem, and we've been doing continuous improvement to our vegetation management program. And also we've been working with private landowners on their vegetation management practices as well, because a lot of these areas are on private property. In terms of the osprey nest that you can see here, they're starting to rebuild. They're very territorial creatures. So if you take down the nest, they start to build it again. So what we've decided to do is to put up separate poles beside our existing poles where ospreys will be, and they're going to be able to build their nest and not affect our power system. That's going to be supporting our wildlife in Innisfil, as well as maintaining the power. As a reminder, if you see a hazard that you believe has the potential to impact the power system, please call it in, tweet us on social media, or use the new report feature on our website. Next slide, please. InnPower has always been a strong community supporter, but with the pandemic, InnPower wanted to do more. As such, we increased our one-on-one support for customers to manage paying their bill. We relaxed our disconnection practices, and we continued to refrain from collecting security deposits. We also donated some money to the Innisfil Food Bank. Next slide, please. In addition, InnPower continues to offer a variety of financial assistance programs to help our customers manage and pay their electricity bill, including the new COVID-19 Energy Assistance Program for residential and small business, arrears management programs, equal payment and budget plans, energy affordability through the Energy Affordability Program, the Low Income Energy Assistance Program, and the Ontario Electricity Support Program. For more information, you may contact our customer support team. They're happy to help and work with as many customers as possible. Next slide, please. So what's next for InnPower? InnPower has a major cost of service underway. This is an enormous undertaking that will be done by the entire company in order to develop and justify our rates with the Ontario Energy Board. As part of this process, we'll be seeking feedback from the public, so stay tuned for that. We're also working on a new strategic business plan. The COVID-19 pandemic has fundamentally affected our lives and changed the way we interact with each other. At InnPower, one of our core values has and always will be to foster a safe, supportive, family-oriented culture in our company as well as in our community. We continuously strive to create that warm, local, hometown experience with increasing value to our customers and recognize that this is now more important than ever. As such, we will be focused on improving our community value, reliability, and presence. As well, we want our employees to value where they work. Our employees are our greatest assets, and we'll be putting programs in place to help ensure that they are engaged and satisfied in their jobs. Next slide, please. This lists some of our values and guiding principles. You can see that we value the safety of all of our workers and the public, quality and reliability, innovation and efficiency, fiscal prudence, support and respectful culture, and community leadership and presence. Next slide, please. We're working on a new mission and vision. Our mission we've set to be safely providing reliable, efficient, and innovative electricity services that are valued by our communities, which is a recurring theme that I want to instill. We're going to do this through excellent customer service and an inclusive and supportive culture. Next slide, please. Finally, our vision, InnPower, to be one of Canada's most innovative power utilities, committed to energizing our communities. We are going to live true to this. InnPower has always been an innovative company. Now we have a guiding principle and a vision that will get us to where we need to be. Next slide, please. In order to do this, we've instilled a new innovation committee. This committee that will be consisting of management and union representatives from all departments will be focused on reducing expenses, increasing revenues through outside of the box thinking. We're very proud of this, and we're proud of our employees for stepping forward to making us one of the most innovative utilities in Canada. Next slide, please. So we've put forward a few recommendations. One, to receive the presentation, to receive the audited financial statements, to approve bylaw number 1, to reappoint KPMG as an auditor, and reappoint Mr. Daniel Shepherdson as our independent director. With respect to the bylaw number 1, we didn't quite mention that, but what we've proposed here is that the municipal representative CAO be removed as the board chair, and we have an independent director chosen amongst all directors on an annual basis. We've put this in place as it supports the Ontario Energy Board's best practices around the governance of OEB rate regulated utilities. It's going to improve optics around any perceived conflicts of interest. It will adopt best practices in the industry, and it will provide professional growth opportunities for our independent directors. So that's the end of my presentation. Are there any questions?
Councillor Nichols, go ahead.
Sorry, Deputy, I believe it was Councillor
Oh,
Waters.
sorry, Councillor Waters, sorry.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Thanks. I appreciate the presentation, and it sounds like a good direction. I like kind of the new vision that's inclusive of innovation, so that's nice to see there. A couple of questions I do have, and coming from me, I think you know where they're going to come from, what they're going to be about. So my question is around green power, in terms of, I've heard a few residents say that they've had a more difficult time getting solar systems hooked up in Innisfil. And so I want to know, A, why that is, and B, does the new innovation include, as it being reactive, being progressive in terms of seeking out new policies and directives that include green power?
Okay, so through you, Mr. Chair, with respect to the difficulty in connecting solar systems, I'm not sure why that would be. We are very supportive of solar systems. We have a number of net metering connections, and prior to that, we had a number of fit and microfit connections as well. So we're very supportive of that. If there are any difficulties, please pass them to our attention. We'll get that sorted out. With respect to new policies around green technologies and green power, we are absolutely looking into that. We will be looking into it through InnPower, as well as our sister affiliate InnTerprises Corporation, to find out any new and emerging sustainable development policies around green energy.
Okay, that's good to hear. So I just I want to make sure that if you're going to use the word innovation, that it truly is about seeking out new opportunities, and that's going to be great to see. The besides green power, we've had discussion around innovative programs. We've discussed the difficulties of offering programs. A, we're a small utility, and B, usually the Energy Board dictates what type of programs we offer. Will you be looking into that side of thing as well in terms of, getting beyond energy efficient lights in terms of program saving, something more substantial?
So through you, Mr. Chair, we are looking at ways that we can reduce the energy consumption and conservation for our customers. One of the things that we're playing around with is the implementation and test bed for microgrids. And ways in which we could mitigate our reliance on the power grid as a whole, which will mitigate our global adjustment. There are a number of things that we are playing with. Conservation has gone to the province, so it's no longer in the purview of the utility. However, we realize that there is something that we can do for our community, and we will be exploring those options.
Just one last final question is, in terms of data collection and finding out who your customers are and what they're doing, has there been anything new about being able to do that? And that way, knowing exactly, what type of technology people are using, whether they're using electric heating, electric hot water, that kind of stuff. So is that changing at all in the next little while?
We are trying our best to see how we can work around legislation to poll our customers to find out what sort of technologies that they're using and what sort of technologies that they'd be interested in. I know our sister company, InnTerprises, they'll be coming up shortly. They're trying to work with greenfield as well as infield development to see how we can work together and look at these new and emerging technologies. Based on privacy legislation and sharing of information between departments and between entities, we don't want to get ourselves in trouble. So it is something that we'd have to look into on how we would poll our customers. But yes, that would be very valuable data for us to have as we plan our power system.
Thanks very much. I appreciate it. Looks like there's some opportunities in the future. Great.
For sure.
Any other questions from members of council? Councillor Ices.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I was just browsing your website as you were talking there, and it does look nice and fresh. I noticed there was a poll there about electric vehicles, and I'm just curious about what you're seeing there. Do you have a handle on the growth of electric cars in the town, and how that might affect the power that they need to run?
Through you, Mr. Chair, that's something I failed to mention. So thank you for bringing that up, Councillor Ices. This is an opportunity where we can put something out and get responses back that are solicited, but our customers don't have to reply to them. So this is one mechanism in response to Councillor Waters where we can get information. We haven't had a good success rate, however, with people responding to those types of surveys on our website. So we don't have that kind of information right now. We do have market information. We are looking at EV chargers and things like that you'll see through our sister company, InnTerprises. And we expect that with the emergence of the electric trucks, which are slated to get into production early next year with the Ford Lightning, that we expect that those numbers to go up.
Any follow-up, Councillor Ices?
Yeah, I guess not knowing the effect of electric vehicles on the power supply, what kind of market information would you have now to say that so much percent of cars are electric, and if you forecast that out, do you have confidence in the grid if this Ford or other car makers get a lot of uptake? Is it possible we could get behind on having right power at the right time and the right place for our residents if they go to that electric car as a means for transportation.
Yes, through you, Mr. Chair. It's a real possibility. I mean, that's predicting the future. We're not sure what the future holds, but the studies that we have done and the studies that are showing to us right now is that it is sustainable at this point in time. We don't foresee that there's going to be any major impact to our power system at this point in time based on the current adoption rates.
Okay, any other questions of Mayor Dolan, and then we'll go to Councillor Kenneth Power.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to, first of all, congratulate Danny. This would be his first AGM as president and CEO. And I think you did a very fabulous job at the presentation. Thank you so much. And also, because we don't get to see them very often, if members of staff and the board, the directors of the board, wanted to turn their camera on, just so you'd have the opportunity. I know you all know Bob Lake. He's been on the board for many years, and also the probably the newest board member, Dan Shepherdson. I have to tell you, if we should be starting to try to woo him to get on our audit committee, because he goes through audited financial statements page by page and asks all the tough questions. So thank you all for, and I know Danny also already introduced Glenn and Barb earlier, and of course, George, Mr. Hydro. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. And Councillor Fowler? Councillor?
Just a quick question, if I may. Thank you, Chair. When it comes to, I understand that now as we expand into Southern Barrie, I believe we're providing service for them. Are we looking to speak with the developers about the means of transmission? In the beginning of the presentation, you stated how the overhead lines are a significant cost, how the nature, weather, and everything else plays an important factor, which are very much relevant to the blackouts and the brownouts. Are we looking at altering the service delivery in that manner, like maybe underground, or is this something that's not being discussed at the moment?
Through you, Mr. Chair. All options are on the table. We are looking at a series of things that we can do at the lowest cost. So everything comes with a price, and burying lines is not the most cost-effective thing to do. The most cost-effective thing for us will be ensuring that our vegetation management is done appropriately and with the least amount of conflict possible, because I know there's a lot of customers that really do like their trees. They don't want trees to be touched, and it just means coming to a compromise that it's done in a manner that is acceptable by the customers and acceptable by InnPower. So the most important thing is vegetation management that we're looking at. With respect to transmission, we will be looking at putting in transmission lines from Barrie. When we build our transformer station, we will need a transmission circuit that comes down. That will undoubtedly improve reliability as well, because that will be on the very tall transmission statue poles that you see, the transformer looking ones, and not necessarily on hydro poles. So those rarely go out of service because they're so tall and way above the tree line. So there's a number of things that we are looking at for certain problem areas, very small problem areas that are always out. We have looked in the past at burying those lines and perhaps looked at a contribution with the community to see if they would be interested in that. So it's kind of all over the place. A lot of customers have bought generators and are not interested in that, but we do work very closely with the community on areas that are problem areas, and we're doing our best to really try and rectify this issue. We realize that it has been a problem, and we're doing our best to try to make things better. You can see our outage numbers have really improved as from this last storm that we just had, this 3-day issue that hit us with the trees, the wind, the osprey nest. It was just really bad timing. But if you look at our outage numbers overall on the year, they have actually improved over year.
Oh, I can see that firsthand. I was out one night at midnight when the fire went on one of the streets down in my ward. Believe me, I've seen your guys in action. They're super. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions of council on this? Councillor Waters.
Just one request. Is it possible that on our annual AGM, just to see that we can see some progress in terms of the number of clients we have in terms of that have green energy, whether or not we can get an update on an annual basis in terms of to see whether or not there's growth in that sector? In terms of how, that would just be, or I can always call ahead of time and just ask, but I just thought it might be a nice way of benchmarking how we're growing in that area.
Through you, Mr. Chair. Absolutely, Councillor Waters. Perhaps we can connect. Perhaps we can connect and get an idea of what exactly you'd be looking for, so that we can incorporate something like that.
That'd be great. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Any other questions of council? No, I now have my agenda in front of me on the phone, so we should be all right there, Councillor Nichols. Okay, and with conclusion then, 4.3, Danny, are you okay there? Yeah,
yes.
I've got a mover and a seconder for the recommendation 4.3, Councillor Nichols and Councillor Fowler. The recommendation that the presentation from Mr. Danny Broussard, President and CEO InnPower Corporation, be received and as information, and that the audited financial statements for InnPower Corporation for the period ending December 31st, 2020 be received as information, and that KPMG be appointed as auditor for fiscal year 2021 for InnPower Corporation, and that their remuneration as such be fixed by the board of directors for each company, and that Daniel Shepherdson be reappointed as private sector representatives to the InnPower board of directors for a one-year term. All in favor?
Sorry, just to add to this, I think we are missing a an item here for the bylaw.
Where's Patty? I don't have it on my agenda in front of me, and I suppose. Councillor Nichols?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I believe that's the next item to be considered. That's
Yeah, I've got it down. Was that 4.4?
Oh, I see.
So all in favor on that? That's passed. Thank you. 4.4, a mover and a seconder, please. Councillor Nichols and Councillor Van Berkel. Consideration of amendment to InnPower Corporation bylaw number 1. The recommendation is that the amendments to bylaw number 1, being a bylaw relating generally to the conduct of the business and the affairs of InnPower Incorporated, be adopted. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. A mover and a seconder, 4.5. Oh, Councillor Van Berkel. Sorry, I didn't see second. Councillor Nichols. Recommendation that the presentation from Danny Broussard, President and CEO of InnServices Utilities Incorporated, be received as information, and that the audited financial statements for its services incorporated for the period ending December 31st, 2020 be received as information, and that KPMG be appointed as auditor for fiscal year 2021 for InnServices Utilities Incorporated, and that the remuneration as such be fixed by the board of directors for each company, and that Stuart Reese be reappointed as independent director to the InnServices board of directors for a one-year term. All in favor? That's passed. Oh, sorry, Councillor Nichols.
Sorry, Deputy Mayor. I believe the presentation comes first, and then we.
Well, yeah, and I don't see that presentation.
I think we're about to receive it. I think
Okay, it's separate from the other ones. Okay, that's why I was hesitating there. Thank you.
Thanks.
Excuse me, Deputy Mayor. I'd like to make a suggestion that maybe what we should do is go through the InnServices presentation and the InnTerprises, go through all of the presentations for the general meetings, and then we'll switch over to the clerk's PowerPoint and go through the motions to adopt all of the recommendations that are embedded within the AGMs. Would that
Do
be
that all
suitable?
at one time then.
Make it a little easier.
Each.
Okay.
That's a lot easier. I appreciate that. Thank you. Okay, Danny, if you could go ahead, that'd be great. Thank you.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you. Let's get into InnServices here. Next slide, please. So again, our current board of directors, and again, a great thank you to them for their continued support and direction. Next slide, please. As well to our executive team. We have myself, Mike Melanishin, Tom Panak, and Tracy Mort, if the community is not familiar with them. Next slide, please. So this slide shows our yearly water and wastewater treatment numbers. It shows how weather really impacts our system. So as you can see, years of wet weather mean less demand on our water distribution system with respect to lawn and garden watering. But it also means more demand on our wastewater collection system due to inflows. So as we are investing more and more into capital growth, we expect that these numbers to increase steadily over time. Next slide, please. With respect to a finance update, you can see that our operating balance has remained relatively stable year over year. There's a slight bit of a decrease here in budget 2021, but you can see that our revenues continue to increase and our expenses continue to increase in line as well. It's also anticipated the operating balance in 2021 will continue to be close to budget. So with the amount of capital that we're doing, this is what shows up in our increased expenses. Again, our full audited financial statements are available upon request from the clerk's office. Next slide, please. So a little bit of about our regulatory services that we offer. You can see we've shown a picture of our very, very clean wastewater facility. Of note that we want to mention is that we've had no incidents of adverse water quality, which negatively impact public consumption. We've had 100% of our inspection results on 3 out of 4 of our water systems and 94% on the 4th. This is the first time in 6 years we've received 100%. So it's been a great accomplishment for us. Next slide, please. With respect to health and safety, there's many enhancements that we continue to make on our InnServices front. With respect to PPE, any gaps that we found in our health and safety training, eye wash stations, bandsaw covers, new racking, and we've got a safety project that's also underway looking at 14 essential, fundamental safety elements. And so we're always improving this program. Next slide, please. With respect to our corporate services, as I mentioned, we've got a new website. We've got the bill that we've put in, and we're continuously looking for corporate efficiencies between our One Town, One Team partners. We've implemented a number of systems that will help to streamline our processes and make things more efficient for our customers. It's important to note that InnServices completed about 5,700 water and wastewater service calls and customer service inquiries in 2020. Next slide, please. This just shows an example again of the InnServices website, which will be quite similar to the InnPower website, and as well the bill. Next slide, please. A little bit about our water operations. So we do have a surface water membrane plant, as well as 3 ground source wells. We've got 155 kilometers of water main, 6 reservoirs, 4 above ground storage structures, and 7 booster stations. Quite the operation. Next slide, please. On the wastewater side, you can see that we've got the 2 wastewater treatment plants. We've got 190 kilometers of sanitary sewers, 20 kilometers of force mains, and 10 sewage pumping stations. So again, a very substantial operation. So once again, I do want to thank our water and wastewater frontline heroes that continue to work hard in the midst of the pandemic to maintain our safe quality drinking water and source water. So kudos to them. Next slide, please. So this is a summary of our major projects that we're undertaking. As I mentioned earlier, we're looking at a significant amount of capital investment in our community. You can see that we will invest about $150 million over the next 3 years. These are some of the major projects that we have right now underway. Most notably, we have our Lakeshore Water Pollution Control Plant expansion. This plant is going to be pushing the limits of technology with respect to improving the quality and achieving the lowest possible amount of phosphorus discharge into Lake Simcoe. Next slide, please. This slide shows our pump station number 4, our sanitary pump station number 4. It was built in 1987. We're currently doing a number of retrofits here that will install higher capacity pumps, motor control panels, and a new generator set to meet the demands up to 2031. Next slide, please. Again, with respect to community support, similar to InnPower, we always strive to do the best for our community. And we're always striving to be value added for our community, especially through our pandemic that we're all facing. So as such, most importantly here, we've had a 0% rate increase for 2020. We've donated to the Innisfil Food Bank in conjunction with InnPower, as well as supporting the minor hockey sponsorships, the Innisfil Historical Society anniversary books, the community education video on World Water Day, as well as providing presentations at the schools. We continue to give back to the community every day. Next slide, please. So again, what's next for InnServices? As I mentioned before, we are undertaking a strategic plan across this company as well, where we are planning to continue to focus on creating and developing that warm local hometown experience with increasing value for our customers and employees. Next slide, please. Our values and principles will be similar to our other utility. What we're looking to create here is a complete picture of our utilities that are working together collaboratively with a common culture of providing safe, quality, reliability, innovation, efficiency, fiscal prudence, great culture, and above all else, community leadership and presence. Next slide, please. As such, a similar mission and vision is what we plan to put forward. We want to provide safe, reliable, and cost-efficient water and wastewater services, again, through innovation that will be valued by our communities. And as well, for our vision, we want to be one of Canada's most innovative water and wastewater utilities. That means exploring and pushing the limits of technology, looking at superior phosphorus reduction, looking at ways that we can help grow our community while achieving our long-term plans. All of these are in place and underway for us. Next slide, please. So here are the recommendations. We ask that you receive the presentation, receive the 2020 audited financial statements, reappoint KPMG as our auditor, and appoint our independent director. Any questions?
Any questions, members of council? Councillor Ices.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. One of the great technologies that InnServices is using is the ListDeck system in your Lakeshore wastewater treatment plant. And I did kind of hear that there was a few challenges with that system, and it did contribute to some odor in the area. I'm just wondering about that system, if all the issues have been remedied. And a second question that is, do we have that system in the Cookstown wastewater treatment plant as well? And if not, is that something that we would look towards?
Hey, through you, Mr. Chair. In response to the first question, when it comes to innovation, when you're pushing the limits of technology, there's always going to be an area where you struggle to get it exactly right. I think this is just one of those situations. I'm happy to report, however, that I think over the last, at least since I've taken over this position, we have not had any complaints on the Listec system. Every complaint that is reported to us is taken to the MECP. We do take it very seriously. We've made some substantial improvements to the containment at the Listec plant, and we were able to see those results. And so far, I haven't seen any major cons coming out of that. But I know we are generating the Listec List Grow product. It looks great. And I think it's really beneficial for us and our community and for our farming community as well. With respect to your second question, I'm sorry I don't have the answer quite yet to that. I'm still getting my feet wet around some of the things that we are doing at our other facilities. If I had to guess, I think we are piloting this right now. And if it is successful, it would be something that we would look at as a benefit to our community. But again, I'm not too familiar with our facilities and if our Cookstown facility is able to accept something like that.
InnServices, you okay?
Yes, I guess thinking about Cookstown, I know there are some restrictions there as far as quantity or the volume that we can take, and just thinking whether that would help somewhat there. Right.
Through you, Mr. Chair, that's something we can certainly take back to our team, and then we can take a follow-up for that.
Thank you. Mayor Dolan, you had some questions? Request to speak?
Yes, thank you. Since I could get my mute button off. Yeah, so the other thing with the Cookstown wastewater treatment facility is that we're currently under an environmental assessment for that facility. So those kinds of things could be considered in upgrades in the future. But I really also just wanted to talk about compliance and what a relief it is, particularly for us, the shareholder, when we get such great reports back as far as compliance is concerned. So I just want to take a moment and thank Tracy Morton, who's the Chief Compliance Officer, and also apologize to Arthur when I was introducing the InnPower staff. Arthur is the newest member. He's the Chief Operating Officer for InnPower, replacing Danny when Danny became President and CEO. And also, Danny, if you could just talk about the new positions, Kathleen and Biman.
Yes, absolutely. Through you, Mr. Chair, we have two new superintendents with us over the last year, Kathleen Farrow and Beeman Podwell. I think they're here. They may want to put on their cameras and just say hi. But Kathleen will look after our water system, and Beeman will look after our wastewater system. And they've been instrumental in tidying up a lot of loose ends for us and making sure that our community gets the clean, safe water that they deserve, as well as keeping our source water clean and safe as well. So thank you to you both. And thank you, Mayor Dolan, for mentioning that.
Thank you. I have two questions. The first question, I know that the town had dealt with some of it, is inflow. Our inflow from our streets and such, is there being repairs to the drains and such to help reduce that inflow? Because I know it impacts our wastewater treatment plant significantly. And my second question is, what is the phosphorus loading into Lake Simcoe target that we are hitting right now?
So through you, Mr. Chair, we realize that we do have an inflow problem. I think most municipalities do have an inflow problem. We are currently undertaking a study that's looking at our I&I impact. And once we get that study back, we will be examining and putting up measurement in different areas to isolate where those problem areas are so that we can fix them. So there is a longer term strategy in place. So that is something that we're focused on resolving over time.
Phosphorus loading, yeah.
Yeah, with respect to the phosphorus loading, I apologize, I don't have that number with me. I'm not sure if somebody on the screen here has that information. Maybe Tom?
Yes, our current limit is 629 kilograms per year of phosphorus into Lake Simcoe.
So that's our kilograms. We used to work, I remember when we were dealing with blue technology. It was a technology we had about 8 years ago. They could break it down into percentages. And I understand at the time, Innisfil was one of the lowest percentages of putting phosphorus back into Lake Simcoe. And I think we're around 2% at one time. So I'd just like to figure that on a percentage basis when we compare with the other 16 wastewater treatment plants around the lake.
Yeah, I apologize. I don't have information.
No, I put you on the spot. I understand that,
No
but
problem.
something we could be proud of again. If it's at that 2%, it would be nice. I know our neighbors are significantly higher than us. Sorry, Len, didn't hear you.
I think I can answer that one, Kevin. ICIS, Council County ICIS, it's 0.75%. 0.75% coming out of our Lakeshore wastewater plant.
And fantastic. Great news. We should be proud of that.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I'm not going to forget that number now. That is great news. Thank you.
Good news. Councillor Waters likes it. Okay. So we'll continue on then. Thank you. Oh, sorry, Councillor Van Berkel.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Ever since I got onto the InnServices board, you know, they never cease to amaze me, the wonderful job they do. You know, I read the reports on the water and it just blows my mind, you know, that it's always so good. And it's the same with the Listec system. I have to tell you that from last year this time, complaints daily have gone to zilch, zero.
Mm-hmm.
There are no complaints anymore, but it's a smell. And that to me alone is, you know, a blessing in disguise. So I'm really impressed by all of the hard work that they do there, both in water and their sewage systems. You know, if you sit on the board, you see what they do work-wise as well in repairs and you know, upgrades. And it's just a fantastic job they do. So I just wanted to thank all of them, including Danny, for the wonderful job they're doing. And please continue, because you know what, we're in real good hands when it comes to that.
Oh, nice to hear. Thank you. Thank you. I think Councillor Waters had a point. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I was reading the Orbit report, which we'll be receiving in Council in the next hour, and I was reading that they're looking at a centralized heating system for that new development, and I was wondering whether or not the expansion of the wastewater treatment plant will allow the use of biogas in that community.
That's another, through you, Mr. Chair, that's another tough one. Maybe I'll call on Tom again and see if Tom has an answer to that one.
To the best of my knowledge, the biogas is usually generated through like an anaerobic process or an anoxic process. So, and as part of this expansion, we don't need to go down into that a very costly level of treatment, and to a large part is because of the Listec process that we have. So because of that, the production of the methane, it just won't be there for that. But at the same time, there are a lot of gains, like environmentally, because of Listec for many reasons.
Thank you.
Any other questions of council? I see Mr. Kane on there, but Okay,
Just to add to the chair, to Councillor Waters, we will be talking more about this later tonight, but just for the purpose of this audience, the district energy feasibility is still going on. I do understand, Tom, correct me if I'm wrong, but there are being design considerations being included into the next phase of the plant design to siphon off the ability of waste heat to be used in that district energy system. So that's something we can certainly tap into, which will have a benefit. And any design of the district energy system itself will be looking at positioning itself for alternative sources of energy, including things like biogas or hydrogen, depending on how we can source those in future. Thank you.
thanks. Any other questions so we can continue? Okay, let's continue.
Thank you very much, councillors. I will pass it over to Dr. Hisham Amara. He'll take over from here.
Thank you, Danny. Greatly appreciated. Can everybody hear me clearly?
You're okay in Peterborough.
That's fantastic. I'm unable to turn on my camera myself because whoever is hosting has prevented me from doing so. So if they don't mind turning on my camera just for the sake of the audience. Perfect. So good evening, Your Worship, Mr. Chairman, our dear councillors, and members of our great community of the town of Innisfil. Thank you for giving me the time today to speak to you about enterprises. So I would kindly ask whoever is managing the slides to please move on to the next slide. Thank you. So Enterprises, Inc. as an organization has been around since the year 2000 when under the new acts in the government at that time period. However, it's not been operationalized to its full extent until I've assumed my role this year in February of 2021. With that being said, the organization's focus is recognizing that Innisfil is unique and would like to transform and work with the town to transform this area basically into an innovation center driving economic activity and strategic growth within the town itself. And this will be achieved through a number of different missions or objectives for us as an organization. Number one is the development of a robust business portfolio for the town of Innisfil through strategic investment in the town and beyond. So looking not only at the town, but also expanding into South Barrie, where InnPower actually services, but also beyond the town of Innisfil and kind of looking at strategic initiatives outside of there to create a very strong ROI for the town. The second mission is focusing on developing a backbone infrastructure to enable transforming the town into a digital town that will facilitate enhancement of our capability to become an insightful town as part and parcel of what the town's vision is. And the last but not least objective is identification of partnerships for opportunities to develop and deliver services and offerings, as I mentioned, to Innisfil and beyond. Next slide. So these slides kind of cover who is actually a part of our board members. So our dear Mayor, Her Worship Mayor Dolan, our great interim CEO and former CEO of this organization, George Shapiro, and upon the acceptance of the board resolution, the appointment of Mr. Harris Ruthin as the additional board member as a representative and independent director. And next slide. As executives, it's myself, Hisham Amara, and Glenn McAllister as a chief financial officer. And I'd like to take a time here to maybe thank Glenn and Danny as well for supporting me in my transition to my new role. They've been great help in helping me step into this role and providing me with a lot of context and support in ensuring that my success so far in this role, and many others in the town as well, who I cannot mention all of them, or also I'll take the entire time doing so. But thank you all for your support in this endeavor. And next slide. So this slide kind of focuses on some of the services we are currently evaluating providing. So some of our services kind of cut across a number of different sectors, from telecommunications to utility services to smart home services that we're currently exploring as enterprises to kind of provide services under. So broadly speaking, our services fall under 5 categories: telecommunication, engineering, design, smart home, utility digital services, and metering. And as I currently right now, we are fully functioning in services such as telecommunication towers. So we have a number of towers currently erected in the town, and we're looking to expand our portfolio by an additional 3 to 4 over the next year and a half to 2. We're also exploring other services as we're speaking. We're quite advanced in our development of an advanced control room service that will provide a digital enhanced capability for InnPower, but also other LDCs within Ontario and eventually beyond, as well as a service. But also in addition, we have explored our portfolio of electric vehicle chargers. So we have currently right now in the process of installing 6 chargers in the community across the entire town. And we're looking, hopefully be a future announcement for a additional number of electric vehicle chargers that could be installed at people's homes. So I'd be looking forward to rolling out that soon once we've worked out all the logistics around it. So that's another endeavor. We're looking to expand the footprint of electric vehicles within our town and to actually see if we're able to monetize that infrastructure in a way that supports its growth, but at the same time allows us to provide a very clear return on investment for ourselves and for our shareholders. And as our slides here articulate, there's a number of other areas we're kind of exploring and evaluating, from solar and storage, hot water heaters, reverse osmosis water systems, distribution power construction company, field services, and different types of metering within Innisfil and beyond. Next slide, please. This slide provides an overview of our finances. I'm not sure why the colors seem a bit different here from what I originally had, but it's all right. So as you currently see right now, from a total asset point of view, it's been a steady steady amount from 2019 to 2020. From a shareholder equity, there's an increase of about $30,000. Our revenue have gone up about $50,000 from year to year. Our total expenses have actually seen a reduction, resulting in a net income in 2020 of $33,000. Of course, this predates me. Currently right now, and I'm kind of looking into a crystal ball in the future, we're looking at financially bringing stability to the organization and increasing our revenue base without materially impacting our OPEX, our operational cost, as the organization looks to grow in terms of the services it provides, but as well as build capacity within the organization. So while these numbers reflect 2020, moving ahead right now, we're looking at defining and increasing revenue in the town to support its, increasing the revenue in the organization to support the growth in the services we're trying to provide, as well as build the capacity within the organization at the same time. And next slides, please. And lastly, our recommendations, such as receiving the presentation, receiving the 2020 audited statements, reappointing KPMG as our auditors, appointing a private sector director, and opening the floors to yourselves for questions. Thank you very much, and looking forward to answering all your questions. Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much. Much appreciated. Any questions from members of council? Councillor Waters.
Thank you, Chair. I really look forward to see what you can do. I think this is a great opportunity for Innisfil. I think it drives innovation in all of our partner organizations, InnPower, InnServices, and in the town. So I just say I'm really looking forward to the next year or so, and hopefully I can get reelected to keep track in terms of what's going on. But no, I'm really excited about all the opportunities that are available to us, because I believe greatly that innovation and digital services are a place that we can really grow. So I just want to say I'm glad we have you on board, and I'm really looking forward to see what comes out of this in the next couple of years. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Waters. I greatly appreciate the endorsement. I'm looking forward to working with you closely as well.
Thank you. Any other members of council? Don't see any other questions. Oh, sorry, Mayor Dolan.
Thank you. I just wanted to thank Hisham, and also from a director's point of view, look forward to having Mr. Southern on the board. It's it'll be nice to have somebody who understands the language and understands the concept of the organization, as I do struggle a little bit with that, but I'm looking forward to learning from them all.
Thank you very much. Okay, I think that's our presentations for tonight. So just from our deputy clerk, I think we're starting at 4.3, is that correct? 4.5.
That would be correct. And we already have a mover and a seconder for that.
Okay, so do I need to read this again or did I go through that?
As it is on the screen, if you just ask for mover and seconders and any questions, that would be great. Thank you.
Great. So we have a mover to seconder. Is there any questions to 4.5? I don't see any, so all in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Okay, I need a mover and a seconder, please. Councillor Fowler, Councillor Ices, that the minutes of the InnTerprises annual general meeting dated October 28, 2020 be received. All in favor? It's carried. 4.7, can I get a mover and a seconder, please? Councillor Nichols, Councillor Van Berkel. All in favor? Any questions? No, all in favor? That's carried. Mover and a seconder, please. Councillor Van Berkel, Councillor Nickel. Now I just want to question here. We're going to continue then with me chairing this, or do we move on? But this position has been dealt with, correct?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Davidson. What we should do at this moment is recess the meeting and our guests can depart and then we'll reconvene and the mayor will resume the chair and then we'll continue and reset or convene into a closed session meeting.
Great, thank you. I'm going to cut that. Thank you. Okay. Okay, I'll leave that with the mayor, please.
Thank you. Well done, Deputy.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everyone,
Bye.
for attending and have a lovely evening. So we'll recess now.